E te iwi e tā wharautia mai ki te kore he whakakitenga mai. Ka mate tō tātou iwi e. Ko wai hei rangatira mō tātou. Ko wai, ko tātou anō. Ko te arahau tēnei kia tōka te manawa o te rangi kia tōka kia mahaki mārire ki tēnei ope nei e. Pikitia te patu o te rangi e tohu ana koe ko te whiwhinga ko te rawinga. Toka anu toka hea rino hea. Tohu iwi mai ere, tohu e kore tā e te titiro. E ko tuku te manu e kore rawe e te ko ira. E kore tā kai puni te manu I tūria pātiki apu o ne tango hiake ana, waiho ana, hei tohu aroha nei e. Ti he wa mauri ora kia tātou katoa e ngaiwi a nau mai rā. Welcome to this very special broadcast on Māori television across its social media platforms, broadcasting live here in this majestic wharenui, Te Ikaroa Maiwi, here at Owai Marae in Waitara, Taranaki, where today we bring you coverage from Te Putake o te Riri ki Taranaki. The stories, the thoughts, aspirations, hopes and dreams of the people of Taranaki and the significant events of the history of Taranaki and indeed of Aotearoa, New Zealand, as we build for a true sense of nationhood across the country. My name is Julian Wilcox. Welcome. Our panel guests tonight, ladies and gentlemen, are both local and national identities fused with stories collected and curated by Māori television whakaata Māori in preparation for this broadcast, Te Putake o te Riri ki Taranaki. And we'll have panellists throughout this 2-hour broadcast here on social media. Our panel members will change throughout the night as we deliberate, discuss, potentially debate some of the issues and perspectives of the various panellists tonight. So let's introduce the panellists we have here. First of all, starting to my right, your left, the chair of Te Runanga o Ngāti Mutunga, also happens to be the chair of Whakaata Māori, so well done getting himself a chair on the set tonight. Jamie Tūtai, kara tēnā koe. Kei tōna taha matau, the former mayor of New Plymouth and the self-proclaimed recovering racist, Andrew Judd. Te rangatira anaru tēnā koe. And of course, to his right, Associate Professor Leonie Pihama, the Director of Te Kotahi Research Institute at the University of Waikato. E te mare kura tēnā rawa. Nā mihi nui kia koe. Also a descendant of Te Aotearoa. No mai rā. To my left, Rawiri Dorbar, David Dorbar, who is also the trustee of Owai and the chair of the trustees of Owai. E te rangatira ngā mihi nui kia koe. Rawiri, tēnā koe. To his left, the former Minister for Māori Development, and more importantly, the former manager of Te Reorirangi o Te Korimako o Taranaki. Ana reira e kara te ururoa, tēnā koe, te ururoa whaevo. And to his left as well, a long-serving mayor of the District of South Taranaki, a 5-term former mayor of the District of South Taranaki, and nau mai, Mary Burke, tēnā koe, and welcome. E aku rangatira tēnā koutou katoa, nau mai ki tā tātou pō. Engari tuatahi rā e te iwi ki hoki ko muri ngā whakaaro. Let's take you back to the powerful and dynamic pōhiri held here this morning on Owai Marae. It was a privilege to witness it and to also see the welcome to so many from across Aotearoa, New Zealand, descendants from Tauranga Moana, Waikato, Tainui, Te Tai Tokerau, Mātātua, and of course the political leaders of our nation, the Prime Minister, the Right Honourable Jacinda Ardern, and Ministers, the Honourable Calvin Davis, the Honourable Penny Henare, and the Honourable Nanaia Mahuta. E te iwi kia mahira ake o tātou mahara ki te pōhiri, I tū, I te ata nei.
What was going on in my mind was the mamae and the pain of the people, of the motu behind me, and the many tears that's here today to front the government around the importance of this kaupapa. No ngā manu e rua tērā, me ngā kōrero, that we still carry strong to our heart here for Taranaki Pānui. E honore korore ki te atua, he maungaronga ki runga I te whenua, he pakaro pai ki ngā kamata.
Ako ko te Putake o te Riri, te karangatanga i enei rā. No mū anoa. Ka tō ngā hapu whakamaumahara i enei kaupapa. Ngari tēnei wā, o tino whānui, o tino puare, ki te pūmahara o te tangata. Te nui ngō wēne a huatanga e kite nei koutou i te rānei, e kore tuhia. Kore tuhia ki te puka. E mea nui ki haere. Haere te nuku o te whenua, kuhu ki roto ki ngā iwi, ki ora te whakamaumaharatanga, katahinga rangona. Te reo, te tuhia, te rangona, te kitea. Kamutu, i tēnei o ngā rā he miharo, he tino whakamiharo tēnei rā i te mea. Ko te kororo te taumata ina nahi, mai te kāinga o te atiao. Hei tāna, tau mai e te Putake o te Riri. Hei o popo, o te Putake o te Raukura.
As I say, powerful images from, I think, a truly significant and memorable event held on this marae, on Owai, here this morning. And of course, a manu kōrihi here at Waitara and Taranaki. Jamie, for you see those images, and of course the pōhiri held here this morning. What was going through your mind when that pōhiri began?
Sense of pride. Seeing our motu come together, our young people come together and express themselves in a way which for me sent me back to remember the time of our tupuna. And I think just seeing that expression, that ihi, that wehi, that wana, and our people of Taranaki supporting that, feeling that too through unity, I think was something special.
Mm. And it was said there, te Putake o te Raukura. What does that mean? Explain that for me.
Well, the Raukura is a symbol. Raukura is a symbol of the philosophy that was undertaken by ngā manu e rua, non-violent action. So I think again, today is important because it reminds us of those things that make us who we are. Mm. So the Raukura for Taranaki, of course, was a response, but it is a symbol to remind us to be true to the Raukura and what it stands for. It stands for manawa nui, resilience. And it reminds us to be good to one another, ourselves internally, and also the whole motu, which is not easy.
Yeah. Jamie says it's not easy. Rawiri, we heard mamai and tangi from one of the kaiwero this morning. How do you do that? How do you be good to each other? Not just Taranaki to Taranaki, Māori to Māori, but a wider community here in Taranaki. How do you be good to each other when you have that mamai and that tangi?
Well, you have to put the mamai in the proper context. You can't be running around being angry all your life to everybody. You actually have to understand your history and know where that mamai fits and where it belongs. And that's how you deal with it.
But for you, an also overriding sense of pride, seeing those images again, reflect on what happened this morning with the motu coming together. You had a couple of ngāpuis, I saw the kazis at the front there earlier, but the motu coming together here with you.
Pā ka mau te wehi. All I could think of at that time of the pōwhiri, it's the 28th of October, the whakapūtanga o te rangatiratanga o New Tirini. And i te pūtanga o te tō rātou mahi, a puta te wairua, te wei, te mano, e rā huatanga katoa. Nā kātou te mamai, te pauritanga I runga e āhuki. Pa koe rā te āhuatanga o te pōhiri. Ka tangi, ka kata, ka koa. Nā ka kotahi tātou.
Ka wānanga, like we're doing here right now. Andrew, I have to tell you, last year when we had the Putake o te Riri a Ngāpuhi, not many people stayed for this kind of panel discussion. We've got a full house here tonight. And not just Māori either. A lot of Pākehā in this whare here tonight, a lot of Pākehā during the pōhiri this morning. When you reflect on that, how do you feel? What does that mean for you?
So for me, obviously coming from complete Pākehā upbringing here in New Zealand, watching and feeling that pōwhiri was, because I don't speak te reo Māori, so for me it was something you could just sense. There was a real emotion that cut through the air and hit me as a Pākehā and the Pākehā that were around me.
Can you explain the emotion for us?
A sense of, I could feel a mixture of emotion of pain, of love, of a crying out for connection between Pākehā and Māori. I could feel the power from this whare calling out to us. And as a Pākehā, a sense of what are we going to do? How are we going to make a difference for the children that were there today as well?
Mary, if I come to you, and I will come to Tūroro and Leonie soon, but did you feel the same sense of emotion, that same emotion today that Andrew talked about?
I always feel emotion coming onto a marae, which probably is stemmed from a sense of envy, because what you see when you come in and what I saw this morning is a total sense of self that people have, that sort of degree of confidence in who they are and what they bring. And for me, you know, that's a source of some envy almost, because that's such a powerful thing to be portraying. And as Damie said, when that's coming through in the young people, that's even more spectacular.
Leonie, could I get a response for you from that? Because you've heard Anaru and Mary talking there, and I wondered how would you respond to that when you hear Pākehā saying there was a sense of emotion that I could feel?
O ko te tūtahi me au ki aku whanaunga, I whakatū I te rānei, I kawe I tēnei kaupapa, I hara mo te Aotearoa anake, engari mo te motu, ki ngā hapu o Manukōrihi o te rau, mo ngā whawhai, whawhaitia ia koutou I tēnei tau, I ngā tau pahure, mo tēnei taone o Waitara, tēnei tumi I te tuatai ki a koutou katoa. So yeah, you know, for me today was really an acknowledgement of much of the pain of Waitara, first and foremost, and of how difficult it must have been to hold this event here on Orway for the hapu and for the iwi of Te Atiawa. And so I think acknowledging the iwi and acknowledging Taranaki for carrying this kaupapa today is really important. On this day, October 28th, is particularly important. So really I had a mixture of sadness, a deep sense of sadness, and I think we saw that with the strength of the rain to the marae this morning. That there is a deep sadness of our tupuna, that we need to acknowledge these things, we need to commemorate these things, but it's not the end of it. We need to see more action happen.
I think we'll come to more of that too later on. Tūroro, you were the minister when a lot of this Te Putake o Te Riri laid its foundations, really, in terms of the way it's being expressed now. You look back on today and what comes to the forefront of your mind?
Rete ki nei kōrero, katoa. Arano te mamai, arano te harikoa, arano te hika ko te ngākau I puā waimai tēnei kaupapa I roto I tēnei rā, I te tau ko hipāke, me pērā kātika. So, like all the other speakers, a sense of real pride. One of those days when those hairs on the back of your neck, if you've got any, rise up and just get, you know, just take your heart. They just take your heart for the day, because you know the sense of feeling about what's going on for the day. I mean, the last time I saw the marae Orway like today was at a particular protest that some of these people here in this room had about the fiscal envelope. And there were people sitting out on that marae in blankets and with absolutely no sound at all. And today the bringing together of the maurako and the poi was pretty poignant because it draws on Taranaki history, but it also recognises the riri that our people feel. So that's at a wider level. So I was pretty overcome, as you do, because I've been on the other side and I know what it's like to face a lot of angry Māori people doing a taiaha and welcoming you to the marae, and I've done it a number of times. But today, real sense of pride for my relations in Taranaki to have it here, but also personally, a real sense of pride that I managed to be a part of it and kick-start it with our party when I was minister, but also pleased that the current government is able to take it up. Because that's most important, that our people see the benefits.
Let's pick up that point now. Nā kui ki ake I mua tata ake nei, I tātai mai te tini ngaro, I tātai mai hoki te karauna. Mara ko te pirimia, me etahi o na minita o te karauna. And of course the Prime Minister arrived with several ministers of the Crown. And there was anticipation today, a sense almost of excitement at the beginning of the day, that perhaps there would be an announcement of sorts from the Prime Minister. And that excitement for many was focused on hope that an announcement of a formal recognition of a day of remembrance might be declared today. For those hoping that might have occurred, there was disappointment and sadness. Arā, ko te kōrero nui tēnei wā, ko te hina pōuri, te kai me te wai.
A welcome like that I've never seen before, hugely powerful, but also the beginning of a conversation, the chance to talk about our history, to talk about parts of Aotearoa's story that just hasn't been told nearly as much as it should. I think the most important thing that we can do to commemorate the New Zealand Wars is make sure they're taught in our schools. Days of commemoration, yes, they're important, but it doesn't mean that we build understanding just through a single day in a year. Putting the teaching of New Zealand history into our schools, into our education system, for all our young people to learn, I think that is the most significant and important thing that we can do going forward. There is more work for us to do across te reo Māori, across teaching of history in schools. Across the work that we do to share that culture and heritage. It's about every single piece. No one thing is going to bring us together as a nation on its own. There's much more that we need to do.
So the beginning of a conversation. The main thing is that this history is taught in our schools. Let me come to you, Leonie. You hear that?
Yeah,
that was more important, according to the Prime Minister, than the recognition of one single day. You hear that, and what do you think?
Well, you know, we've taken 160 years to get here, so I hope we don't need 160 to get to having some kind of day that recognises what has happened here. But also I agree with the Wikiri's kōrero today when he talked about there are many days, and so maybe we need to be thinking as hapu and iwi about those many days. So is it March 17th for Waitara? You know, what are the days that we need to think about? And I do want to acknowledge Tūro's work in starting this. I think that if that hadn't happened, we may not even be here today. And so, he mihi tēnei ki a koe. But in terms of when we think about the kinds of days that we have to commemorate, we have a lot of regional anniversaries. They're really about commemorating, you know, the establishment of colonial settler cities. And we have them all through the year. So there are plenty of days of anniversaries that could be removed, and actually more appropriate days could be put in place in terms of commemorating our history.
Tūroa, you hear that. Do you feel that statement from the Prime Minister is a cop-out? Or do you think that we're on a journey here, to use an off-quoted phrase, and potentially at the beginning of that journey, and there's still more to go?
Well, you got to think back to the start of this kaupapa. For me, it actually started at Rangiriri, when I was there to be welcomed on to that first occasion of the commemorations. And from there on, and at every other hui, in front of John Key, in front of Bill English, the call from our people was, give us a day.
O mai hera.
O mai hera. It started from there. And in the context of that time, so many other things have come about. Pariaka has come about. Maunga Pohatu, the settlement, the pardon for Ruakenana, the giving back of Rangiriri Pā to Waikato Tainui. So, coming to the question, I can't talk for the Prime Minister, but what I can tell you is that in my time, I heard that call and we attempted to get there because it seemed appropriate that, hello, we have a day when we celebrate or commemorate actually World War I, World War II, this is where the discussion came from. Why not one day for Te Ao Māori? So, unfortunately in my time couldn't get there, but we got the pūtea to allow it to happen, and we got recognition and we got the committee to get it rolling, which is today and last year are a result of that. As some speakers said today, this is a part of a longer journey, and we need to keep that kaupapa in front of the people, and occasions like today will do that, keep it in front of the people. And actually, it's not for the government to tell, in my humble opinion, It's not for the government to tell us when we should have our day. It is appropriate that our people set the timelines, say when it's going to happen, and appropriately take it up, which is exactly what's happened for this occasion today.
Okay. Well, look, I want to open this up because I don't want to be facilitating as much as I want to hear everyone's thoughts. And I saw you nodding, Mary, and I'm sure that's a symbol of the fact that you agree with what Tūriro was saying. But I wonder if people, for those who advocated so staunchly, so ardently, so steadfastly for a day, that they will be disappointed. What is the wider community, what is the community that you are a part of saying? Are they in agreement with that, or are they saying that this is very much a journey of learning, of teaching, of listening?
I haven't discussed the matter specifically with community, but I do have some thoughts. I think that I wouldn't be too hard on the Prime Minister. I don't think she would have been sneaking out of that, because I think that the conversation is the important thing moving forward from now. And we've all seen, particularly in Taranaki, what happens when you try and move too fast, when you've got to move two groups of people, and that's Andrew's story. So I think it's worth taking a bit more time at the beginning. The conversations are the important bit, and that's the bit that our people need some guts to get on with.
Andrew?
Well, just with respect to too fast for the people, as a Pākehā, I would reverse that and say, would we say that if the focus had been the other way around? Would it be too fast and take people with me? Because one question I've not had to answer into the eyes of my children is, Dad, why is our community having a petition to exclude us from the council because we're Pākehā? Yeah. I don't know how that would feel. So yes, I do take issue with our Prime Minister, and I see it definitely as a cop-out, because with all due respect to having days, we can have anniversaries and wedding anniversaries if you think of a marriage or a relationship, but if it's not in your heart to know what the significance is, then what does it actually mean? And I'm talking in terms of Pākehā, and that is, if we don't take into our hearts the cause and effect of what my ancestors, our ancestors did to Māori, it is too easy for us to say we have to take our time.
So I get the point that people will make, and the riposte that people will use, is we're just not there yet. As a wider society, we're not ready for that. That would be moving too fast. We're just not ready to be able to move that day, to have that day in place, because simply it would cause a bit of a response from the wider New Zealand society, from the wider New Zealand community. What do you say to those people?
Well, then we're empowering colonisation to keep its grip around our throat, because that's part of we're forgiving the actions because we're too afraid to actually say, no, what you've done and what you're doing is not good enough. We've done that since Cook arrived, we've done this, haven't we, to Māoridom. That's why I say Pākehā are the problem. We have always been the problem. And we have to step up, with all due respect, Prime Minister, and be the solution. So I look for my leaders to put that peg out and make a change.
Jamie, you nodded through that, I suspect, in agreement. But the wider societal conversation piece, which the Prime Minister says can now happen as a result of the change in the national curriculum in 2022, I think it is, as announced on the 12th of September by the Prime Minister. That's the way to start that. Thoughts?
Well, I think there are multiple avenues. That is one. I mean, I have much more confidence in the younger generation of non-Māori to embrace the beauty of our culture and our history.
Where does that confidence come from? Talk about that.
Well, I think it's, I mean, I know with my own children, they're at a school in Wellington where there are 26 languages spoken. We have a Māori principal who speaks Māori to all of the children. They all do kapaka, they embrace it. And they've got open minds, they've got open hearts. I think for me, though, today it's always Māori compromising. The reality is it's always Māori compromising. Because Māori want a day, we're not getting a day. I think Andrew's right. If the shoe was on the other foot, and I think my call to non-Māori is put yourselves in the shoes of Māori. And no one ever does, right? And it's just easy to say, well, that's a Māori issue. We spoke today in the House about we had war, we had peace, let's get into reconciliation. But that's all placed on Māori. What are non-Māori doing? What are non-Māori doing? And it's one of those issues where it's always, it becomes politicised. Oh, it's too hard. or we're not there yet. It takes time. And our people are patient. As Leonie says, we've waited 160 years to have a Prime Minister come to Waitara and acknowledge Waitara te Putake o te Riri ki Taranaki nei. But, I don't think we should use that excuses anymore. And, homai he rā. I mean, again, it's the same thing. We ask and we're not given. It happens every time. Again, Māori are compromising. For me, kei te he tēnā. And so we can talk about conversations and have conversations, but we actually need action. We need leadership.
Rawiri, do you agree? Because I pick up on Leonie's point. You mentioned Ruakere earlier, and I heard of that very powerful presentation from Ruakere in the marquee. And part of me agrees with it. Ruakere's point about the fact that there are so many days, March 17th, as Leonie mentioned. So where is your thinking at? Are you one of those who supports Homai he rā, or do you think there is a longer journey that has to take place here?
Oh no, I think we will always have our days. And when the Crown or the government or Jacinda or whoever's in that seat is mature enough to come and participate in it, then they'll be just as welcome as they were today. If having the conversation with us is too hard and they can't bear to be there or participate, I guess we get responses like we get today. But kei te pai, we'll still be here. We'll still be having our commemorations. We'll still be uniting with our relations and our neighbours. And we'll still be talking about the issues, and when they want to come along and sit down with us, well, they can do that. And I agree that, we're expected to do the compromise. And, I've given up. How many of our people have got faith in the government anymore to do the right thing by us? Sure. They've never done the right thing by us. Coming up today was actually a nice step in the right direction, only to be taken away by saying it was lovely. I doubt if it'll happen again. It might be a little while. Maybe we wait until the kids we're going to teach in 5 years' time grow up for 20 years, and then they become parliamentarians, and then they make those decisions. It's rubbish. I have no faith in the government anyway.
Pretty strong words. Okay.
Julian, can I just say, when we use terms like wider society, that wider society won't accept this, we're actually not talking about Māori, because when people talk about wider society or the public in that context, they're actually talking about Pākehā.
Yeah.
They're not talking about Māori. We're actually already there, and I agree with Jamie's kōrero around any notion of ideas of reconciliation are always put on us to be the ones doing the reconciling. Well, actually, we've been in defence of our land and defence of our language and defence of ourselves for over 160 years. We have nothing to reconcile, So it's up to the Crown to step forward and actually become a good treaty partner, because at the moment, they're actually bad manuhiri. They're not a good treaty partner.
Tai hoa ke he kōrero tu atu, e harai te mea tāpua na ngā kōrero i kone, ngari a rāno atu ngā kōrero e pāna ki tēnei kaupapa o tira, ki te pūtake o te riri, ki te pūtake o te raukura rānei ki roto o Taranaki. Why is so little known by so many about so much? Nā reira, kia te tiro ake tātou ki etahi atu o ngā kōrero e pāna ki te pūtake o te riri, te pūtake o te raukura ki roto o Taranaki. Our team at Māori Television spoke to historian Ihu Manea, whatakupu o Taranaki, Ruakere Hond, about how the war began here in Taranaki.
The foundation of war within Taranaki is really quite complex, and yet it's quite simple at the same time. It's simple because it was land that drove the initial conflict. The Wakefield brothers and the New Zealand Company, a huge fraud in that they sold land that they didn't actually own in Taranaki. They sold land to people in England, and when the ships started arriving and they realised that they hadn't actually purchased the land that these settlers had been sold, and it created huge tension for the Crown.
Our people need land. We would like to purchase some of your land.
Kore rawa. The area of New Plymouth was overrun with settlers that were arriving, and for many of them, once they realised that the ownership of the land that they thought they had was invalid, Some of them jumped straight back on the ship and headed over to Australia. But the ones that stayed quite often weren't able to go anywhere else because they didn't have the resources to re-establish themselves. So that's what drove and heightened the tension. How the Crown reacted to that is where it gets complex, because they used a number of means, a number of strategies and approaches to wear down Māori within Taranaki and then to create the conflict that led to the war that we now know as the Taranaki Wars. Quite clearly it started on the 17th of March in 1860. There is no doubt about that. That's when the first shots were fired. Prior to that, there had been ongoing discussions, debates, negotiations, and Māori within Te Atiawa Nui Tonu were saying this land is not for sale. If you go ahead with this land, you are buying into a huge conflict, and the Crown went ahead with it anyway. And so when they came through with the surveyors to survey the land, they were given an opportunity there when Māori were pulling out the survey pegs and then returning the surveyors back. It was at that point where the Crown then came forward with the troops and attacked the pā of Te Kohia. And that became the flashpoint, that became the point at which we identify as being the beginning of the destruction of all of the aspirations that Te Atiawa Nui Tonu and Taranaki Iwi, Taranaki Whānui had for the economic development, for the growth, and for Taranaki to move ahead after all it had been through in the previous years. From a Māori perspective, within Te Atiawa Nui Tonu nei, the key players were really Wirumukingi Te Rangitake. Perhaps he was probably the most important. His father, Rere Tā Whangawhanga, was the key leader who led much of Te Atiawa further south into Waikanae, into Wellington. However, it was Rere Tā Whangawhanga that said to his son, Te Rangitake, to return back to Waitara. That Waitara should never be given, should never be lost, should never be given up to the Crown, to others. That Waitara is the ancestral home, the traditional home, the place where Te Atiawa should be based in the future. And so Wirumukingi Te Rangitake came back to Waitara to live up to those words and that oath that he made to his father on his father's deathbed.
Kia huri atu kia koe e kara te ururoa. Why is so little known about something so important by so many people?
I think clearly the government has recognised that our education system has never catered for the education of New Zealand society. Even in my time, we didn't know enough about the stories sitting at our own back doorsteps. And yet there's so much to see, so much to understand, that when you travel throughout our country, the Māori footprint is everywhere. And yet some of those key sites that we're remembering today, Rangiriri, the State Highway 1 used to go smack dead through the middle of that pā site. Orako, straight through the middle. Cameron Road, straight through the middle of Pukehinahina. Was that a deliberate ploy on the part of the governors of the land to actually destroy that history and put it away into the cupboard? I'm not sure. But you'd think about the fact that if that happened, then something serious was going on. And the downside is that our young people have never had the opportunity to really get to grips with the history that, for all intents and purposes, is sitting right on our back doorstep. And it's all around the country. For that, you might applaud the fact that New Zealand history has been picked up again, a kaupapa that was started in our time, to actually start teaching the next generation. And I think Jamie's hit the nail on the head in terms of talking about our younger ones. We have great faith in our younger ones in the education system now. If all things pan out, to get the bigger part of New Zealand history, which is our history, that's important.
I was going to call you Anaru, but Anaru, are you imbued with a sense of confidence now that this conversation will start to go further, that more will learn about our history, particularly in this roi? I mean, there are so many significant landmarks, significant events that happen in Taranaki. that lead to a whole bunch of other impacts that happen across Aotearoa New Zealand, and the impact of colonisation. Do you think that these conversations now will occur, particularly with the national curriculum being introduced in 2022?
I'd love to say yes, but my heart says no, and my experience backs that up.
Why?
I came into the mayoral position with no knowledge of anything of our past. I felt like the child of the Soprano family. I had all this privilege and wealth, but I didn't know and didn't even think about where it come from. Actually on the back of theft and all of what we talk about. To be in a position to decide treaty settlement. How on earth can somebody be put in that position without any knowledge of its past? The pain that endured here with the Waitara and the Peka Peka block. To still see through that process a denial of the truth. Why? Because the Crown, from my observation, and with all due respect to the individuals that are working on it, were trying to get away with the cheapest amount of money they could. Now, if you don't know in your heart what you're actually settling on, what are you settling? Because a cheque cannot fix this. And so, as long as legislation, to answer your question more directly, remains a tool of oppression, like the ability to petition and remove the Māori voice from council, and only the Māori voice, that is a clear modern-day act of colonisation. You cannot on one hand say you've come here, sorry, let's read about the past, and on the other hand, maintain legislation that does the same actions. It's like I can read a Bible, but it doesn't make me Christian.
It's a very good point, actually. I haven't thought of it in those terms. Mene tohu hauha. Jamie, you've been a part of settlement negotiations. And we hear a lot about the fact that the settlement negotiations never, ever achieve or reflect not just the trauma of the time in which these injustices were imparted, but also the intergenerational trauma that comes from these historical events. So what do you say in response to those who say settlement negotiations, they don't cut it, they don't do it, they don't deal with the real issues that we need to focus on, particularly when we're trying to deal with intergenerational trauma that have come as a direct consequence of these kind of events here in Taranaki?
So I think it's part of the continuum. I've always believed settlements are a means to an end. They're not the end. And it's a political process. So I think I've always entered into settlements knowing what the rules are of the game, right? And again, the compromise. But I've always been a big believer in the ability to be able to record our stories, our history, our experience with the Crown, and to secure resource to enable us to better organise ourselves as we move forward. And I mean, I take the example of the Sim Commission in 1927. I mean, this house and Tā Māui standing here at Manukurehi are a result of that Sim Commission, which was full and final. And we've had 7 settlements to date here in Taranaki, 1 remaining, Iwi settlement, and then we've got our maunga. Again, prime example of Taranaki Māori compromising. The maunga is returned to our people for a day and then gifted to the nation as a symbol of love from the Taranaki people. So, you know, I think we've just got to, I mean, for me, settlements have enabled us to better organise ourselves, to be able to engage with one another, with the government. And, you know, I've got great optimism that it will enable us to strengthen ourselves. Economically, the money's a means to an end as well. It's more about strengthening ourselves culturally and connecting with one another. Because the consequence of the experience we've had is our ability to relate to one another. And to be proud of who we are. I mean, my mother's generation were embarrassed to be Māori. You know, going to school and being wakama about being Māori. You know, again, if you put the shoe on the Pākehā foot, how would you feel growing up being ashamed of being Pākehā?
Leone, e pehe nei o whakaro?
Well, you know, Moana Jackson has always told us treaties are not made to be settled, they're made to be honoured. So until we are operating in a way where Te Tiriti o Waitangi is honoured in its fullness, we're going to continue to have issues that arise from, you know, the second point that I want to make, which is that colonisation is not an event. You know, it's a series of systems. So what Jamie's talking about is a series of colonial systems and a flawed process that keep putting us on the back foot.
But a process,
on
as
the
Jamie
time.
says, that gets a longer journey happening that eventually gets to an outcome. A process that leads you to a greater and better outcome in the end.
Well, people talk today about it being a long, it's a long haul, right? It's the long game that we're in for. And we are in for the long game because we're tangata whenua and we're not going anywhere.
We're not going anywhere.
So we're here forever. That's our long game. And so, the settlement process, with all that it can bring, also brings a whole range of other issues in terms of the notion that we're still fighting for a fundamental honouring of the treaty. And so what do we see today? We see, a Prime Minister coming in to a commemoration on very contested land and coming in without anything to gift. She didn't bring any koha back to the people. There's no day. She didn't follow it up. And so, the fact that they come is one thing, but what koha did she bring back to the people today? Because I certainly did not hear one. And so why do our people not know these things? And I'm including Māori. Why have our people grown up not knowing our own history? Why was I raised here in Waitara and didn't know Parihaka was 45 minutes up the road, in my generation? So why did that happen? Because in 1816 we got a colonial school in your territory in Rangihaua that was established for the colonising of our people, and that is what schooling has continued to be for 200 years. The only exception being kaupapa Māori education.
These are questions I know and issues that the other panellists will, I'm certain, answer after this VT. And the VT really focuses on some pretty brave people, actually, who not long ago, from Otorohanga High School, led a petition to include the New Zealand history in the curriculum of Aotearoa in all schools of Aotearoa, schools and kura of Aotearoa. Nō reire te iwi kia whiua te tirohanga ake i ai anei, ki ngā mahi a enei, me ki a te hunga mai anei. Nā rata no te pitihana, e whakatakato, kia kōkiri whakamua ake te tirohanga whakamuri Aotearoa ki tōna Aotearoatanga i roto i ngātau.
We took 3 busloads of students from a mainstream school, Otarahanga College, and we met Rahui and Uncle Nick to whāngai at Rangiawhia. And Uncle Nick talked about the church, and he talked to these 50% Pākehā, 50% Māori around a church that was locked up and burnt, and women and children, and our old kaumātua in that church. You knew it wasn't valued, that history, because it was a paddock. And then the light bulb went off, just because someone talked to them about this history.
Began petitioning on the streets, at festivals, kapahaka festivals, native food festivals, rowing, we went everywhere.
Me te mani, ko te nui o te Pākehā e tahuri mai ana ki te tautoko i tēnei momo whakaaro. I te hunga hitoria, puta noa. Me ngā whānau e pupuru ana i e te hi kōrero, engari e horokuku ana ki te tuku i e nei kōrero, kua tai te wā ki te whakaputa i e rā kōrero i tēnei wā.
So Rahui, we went back to school, came back to Rahui, and I said, they want a petition. We're going to petition to Parliament. He goes, well, I don't want anything less than 10,000. I said, okay. And he said, and we need to get this approved or supported by Kingitu Heitia himself first. So, funnily enough, our tupuna were talking to us because Orako, the commemoration of Orako was coming up, and Kingitu Heitia was about to come onto Orako. So we got the petition ready. We never got any signatures until we presented to him that day, and he was the first one to sign it.
Ka mutu ka huri ki roto i ngā kaupapa ko tahi rau e 5 kau o ngā riri whenua. Mai o rua peka ki te toke rau, ki te tarata, ki waire ngā hika, ki whearani. Ko tahi te kōrero, me tautoko tātou i tēnei petihana.
We got a lot of correspondence from Pākehā, and they wrote letters around their British ancestor that had been part of the battle and were sent back to England because they wouldn't kill women and children. And they were locked and put away. With every signature became a story.
Ko ia, ko te tongi kura a tāwhiao e ki ana, e kore tēnei whakaoranga e huri ki tua o aku mokopuna. Tātou me o tātou mātua, ka rongo rātou ia haki pia, ia iri hāpeti te tuatahi, ia kāpene kuki, ia wairani, kaore ke i rongo ia hoturoa. Kaore ke nei rongo ia pōtatau, ia tāwhiao, ia rewi mani a poto, ia waiatu, ia waiatu. Kua tai te wā o te whakatupuranga whai muri ake, te whakapiki ake i ngā taumata mātauranga i mahu ai honei o mātou kau mātua i o mātou whānau.
This announcement means to us, to the rōpū of the Petihana, more than I can express in words. It will provide us with the resources, with the skills to make informed choices about healthcare, about land, about the well-being of all people in Aotearoa.
E mihi ana kia Leah Belma, o tira ki te hunga nā rātou no te Petihana i kōkiri. Ke pēnei rawa te tahuritanga o te marau o Aotearoa, me pēnā pēr te kōrero. Te Ururo, you were the minister, and you were in some of those shots, by the way. By the way, you look like you've lost a bit of weight since then, well done. But you were in some of those shots there, and I get a real sense of a want from the next generation to take this forward, to really have a wider conversation with all New Zealanders about our history, about who we are, about these significant events that we've been talking about. And everyone feels a sense of optimism. However, there is also a sense that there are those in this society, and Leonie's talked about this, who will never want to be a part of that conversation. Is it a case of people like Leah and her ilk just simply overtaking the great wave that washes that kind of sentiment out of this country? Is that what you sense when you watch this video clip?
Well, it's going to take some movers and shakers like that because there's such a big, huge wave to move.
How big a wave? Tell me how big a wave.
Kei te kōrero tātou mo te āhuatanga o te ao Pākehā, e kōrero hiake nei. Kei te pai tātou te ao Māori. Ko mōhi o tātou, ki te āhuatanga o te noho ao Māori nei, a New Terini nei. Engari no te ao Pākehā, kei te noho kūware, kore mōhio. I te āhuatanga o tō tātou ao. I naka haere tētahi ki roto i tētahi o ngā kaupapa nei. Ko tō ngāka, ko tō whatu manawa, i titia ki te āhuatanga o te riri me te aroha. You know, one of the things that, as I think about Rangiriri, and I was there on that day, and you go to Maunga Puatu, and there was Pākehā people there, but the vast majority were our people. You cannot but be moved by the passion of our people talking about our history. But there was just a small audience of non-Māori, a heap of Māori who are obviously interested in our history, but we've got such a huge wave to move because we have generation after generation who have been stuck with what they know, and they only know what they know. If you haven't been taught anything else, well, that's it. There might have been a time in New Plymouth here or at Waitara when the common name of this town was Waitara. That's how people talked about it because that's what Koro said, or my grandmother said, and my great-grandmother said, so I'm going to say it, and my grandchildren are going to say it. That's how it rolls. And so if you learn a particular history from back then, you will stay with that history. So we got, when I talk about a big wave, it's a big wave of mātauranga, of education, that can't be left for Māori continually to give up our kōrero and share with everybody all of the time, because we actually got to educate our own too. Pēnei tā leone e kōrero nei. So it means the greater mass has to educate the greater mass, and that's why it's great to see so many non-Māori here today and tonight, because actually it's in your hands to help us out, to teach the people of this land about our shared history.
I see a lot of nodding heads in the audience too. Mary, you know, it's interesting. I took a drive around Waitara, and I hadn't really thought about this previously, but I've driven around Waitara a couple of times, and I see some names on streets. Cameron, the name of the street just over here, McLean, Brown, Queen. Now, these may be minimal issues, but nevertheless, Tururoa mentions the great wave, right, of Pākehā. How do you respond when you hear that? What do you think when you hear words like that?
Well, I think he's absolutely right, and I think that there are a couple of challenges that sit in that. One of those is that Pākehā probably feel pretty threatened, many of them.
So even why is that? Is that fair?
No, not at all. But the environment that Andrew has already talked about doesn't encourage people to feel more confident to come into these situations. Right. It probably encourages them to be a lot less confident. So my challenge is this. When we talk about, we heard Ruakere talking about the divide and rule concept almost at the beginning of the land confiscations. When you look at the way that panned out, it happened, that was a significant series of events that happened over a 12-month period. Now that's about the fastest I've ever seen a government operate on something like this in the history of the country. So one of my challenges would be, if they could do it that quickly then when it comes to introducing Māori history into the schools and when it comes to redressing the balance of some of these other things that have been talked about tonight, let's give the officials a bit of a tap and ask them to move a little bit quicker.
Nobody, that's a good point, although you've said to me you don't have a lot of confidence in officialdom, you don't have a lot of confidence in government to move along. But unless we work together on this, it won't move along, right?
Well, when are they going to work together with us? When have they worked together with us?
But when have they worked together with many, many people?
Yeah, no, it's just, the government has politics between our families and creates division within our families. And that sort of dirty politics is what created the mistrust, distrust and the problems in Waitara in the 1850s and 60s. They aren't going to use that now to fix the problem. That was the methods they used. They were cheap and nasty methods. They were people without mana who came amongst our rangatira and pretended they had mana. Turns out they didn't. What a surprise. So if the government's going to fix anything now, it has to act with mana, a meaningful mana. It has to make a decision and say, well, you know what, this isn't about politics, this isn't about votes, this is about getting our family right. That's if they want to be a family. Are we the only ones that want to be a family here? So, also, the government's still raping our whenua anyway, so there's not going to be this sudden big change of heart to bring us on board in some kind of good relationship when they are draining our whenua of oils, when they're replacing it with poisons, when they are taking our waters and commercialising the cost of using our waters, our own waters, when our environment's dying. And this is all in the making of money off our whenua. This is the making of money of our resources. And so how do you become partners with somebody and still pick their pocket? Are they going to do that?
No, I hear your point. Arānoa atu ngā patanga arānoa atu ngā tolotolonga, e tika tunu tā. E te iwi kua whakatoite atu tātou ki te wehe ruatanga o tātou kaupapa. We're halfway there, that was quick, eh? Engari arānoa atu ngā kōrero ai haere ake ana. We've got some more guests coming on to our panel. Mary, thank you very much for joining us tonight. Really appreciate your time. Ngā mihi nui kia koe. Please stay with us. We'll have more from Te Putake o Te Riri ki Taranaki. We're broadcasting live here on Māori Television on all its social media platforms at all Waimarae here in this beautiful whare of Te Ikaroa Māui. Please stay with us. We'll see you back here very soon.
New Zealand is surely wasted on the Maoris. This land was bought for a fair price.
Undertow. Rapare. Hey, keep calm.
Just so I'm gonna run now.
Pity's on.
Push ups.
And training has hit the next level.
Scrum time.
Jeez, aggressive. Okay, then come on. The World Cup hero lives on.
Useless.
I whakata Māori.
Your invention has won our prestigious Spirit Award.
Wow, I'll be that.
Have a look at this.
We are so lucky to have a boy like you. T.S., you haven't been kidnapped.
And if you're okay, that's all that counts.
The young and prodigious T.S. Spivet, Ramiri.
Governor Gray reported that he had succeeded in peacefully imposing empire on the Māori.
Both races already form one harmonious community.
Support came from nearly 2/3 of the major tribal groups of the North Island. In 1858, a great general of the Musket Wars, Ko Tatau Te Wherowhero, chief of Ngāti Mahuta, was anointed.
The New Zealand Wars. Rātapu, haurua I te whetū.
Haere tātou. Mena he kōrero anō au, ka kōrero mai koe nei. Ai. Me Auntie Awhioi, lere kē ramatu I e tauara, anō nei I te rukahu ia ki au. Ka kore ia I rukahu? I don't know.
Her name. How'd you know it?
I know you've had a bad run with bullshit artists lately, but you can't let them shake your trust in your number ones.
Ahi ka roa rā apa.
I'm sending all these vibes to you.
It's taken a long time to get to this point, but what is this point? It's a reference point. Every generation, as I understand, has always remembered and has maintained its views around what these wars meant. This is this iteration of that. And I have to acknowledge quite strongly the rangatahi of Otorohanga High School, that they, in considering what was taking place with the commemorations of the Anzac at Gallipoli around that time, then started to ask questions, as rangatahi do. And they should ask those questions. What about what happened in Aotearoa? And why hadn't those questions been asked before? Why were we so ready to give medals to those of our tupuna within Aotearoa who went to fight on other people's soil? And there is no doubt about the fact that at Gallipoli we were invading the sovereign nation of another people, and we were given medals for doing that. And in a similar way, the British soldiers who came to Aotearoa, the first main battle there where the first Victoria Cross was awarded in Aotearoa was awarded at Waireka, just down the road, at the battle that occurred when the HMS Niger, the biggest battleship in the southern hemisphere at the time, was brought here to Taranaki because the Crown knew that war would begin in this location. And those medals were awarded for people who are invading foreign soils. Where is the recognition of our rangatira who fought for their rangatiratanga, for their land, who defended themselves? So most people think that Māori were the ones who attacked the Crown. In actual fact, it was the opposite. There's only a few instances, in particular with Tito Huaru in at least two of the battles, but the vast majority of these battles weren't Māori attacking Pākehā. It was the government was attacking Māori, and Māori were defending themselves. So where is the recognition of those who lost their lives?
Blood, sweat, tears, getting here today, and thank you so much for helping us. And for supporting our history and our culture. Because without doing this, without showing that we support that, we would lose it. We would be losing a part of ourselves. No matter what ethnicity you are, you cannot turn your back from that. And I thank you all for not doing that.
I take my hat off to Otorohanga High School, that the questions that rangatahi ask, they're not naive or innocent. They are the right questions to ask. Every generation needs to ask those questions. Every generation from here on in will ask those questions, and they'll ask the question, what did we do in this generation? How do we come to be like this? How did Taranaki, where's the imbalance around the lack of housing, the unemployment, the health statistics, and all of these things that in large part the rest of the nation has become desensitized to? If we trace that back, we trace it back to the point at which all of those aspirations were being put into place by Te Rangitake, by Tohu Entewhiti, by Paolo Kukutai, by all of these leaders of that time, and then war was used to eliminate those aspirations from Māori communities, that then put Māori onto the back foot, that then took the resource that we had, our land, so that we wouldn't be in a position to be able to assert ourselves and our rangatiratanga within this country. Those are the questions that each generation will ask, and they will ask it of us. They will ask it of the next generation and the next generation. What did we do in our time? And the answer is simply that we need to recognise these events, because that gives us the foundation of what we need to do in this time. That we are rangatira, and that Māori has a place, has a role, and should have a place and a role within what takes place in the development economically, socially, politically in this region.
Wise words from Ruakere Hond o Taranaki whānui. E te iwi kua aurake mai anō koutou ki tau tātou pāpāhotanga motuhake. E pāho ake ana mā ngā puri pāpāho o whakaata Māori ki te tini ki te mano. Welcome back to this very special broadcast of Te Putake o te Riri ki Taranaki, Te Putake o te Raukura. And we are truly blessed to be here inside this wonderful whare of Te Karoa Māui, here at Owai, a marae and Waitara Taranaki, where today hundreds gathered to remember, to reflect, and to also look forward to the future state of our nationhood of Aotearoa. And of course, the impacts of the Taranaki Wars felt so keenly here by the people of Taranaki. I'm still joined by Tūruroa Whevel, the former Minister of Māori Development, and also by Professor Leonie Pihama, Professor of Māori Research of Unitec, and also the Iwi researcher for Tūtama Wahine o Taranaki, Leonie, tēnā koe, and also by Jamie Tuta, Chair of Te Runanga o Ngāti Mutunga, and a whole bunch of other chair positions he's got. I'm also joined now by Tamsin Pue, broadcaster for Te Korimako o Taranaki, and also the tutor of one of my favourite kapahaka groups, Ngā Pura Pura o Te Teihawauru. I'm not saying that just because you're here, by the way, either. And also joined by Peter Moyahu, who is, of course, a negotiator for Te Ātiawa and involved in the treaty settlements for Ngārua Hinerangi and Taranaki. And we're also joined by the Race Relations Commissioner, Meng Fu. Tēnā koutou katoa, and welcome to the three of you. So Tamsin, let's start with you, because you've been on the ground with Te Korimako o Taranaki. We've talked a bit about what happened here today, but when you see what happened here today, when you hear from the community, particularly in Waitara, but also Taranaki whānui, what are you filled with? Are you imbued with a sense of confidence, of hope, of positivity about change that can be implemented here in Aotearoa for our future? Tamariki, mokopuna, uri whakaheke. What do you feel when you see what happened here this morning? Because you were a big part of that.
Tēnā koe, Julian. O tino tēnā koutou katoa. Tuatai ake me mea te unga i taia tinana mai te rānei ki te tautoko i a mātou o Taranaki, o te anō Waitara, tēnei te mihi atu ki ngā wanaunga o Ngāpui o tauranga moana, o te ao tupo o Whanganui anō hoki i tai mai ki konei, hi o te anō rā oku wanaunga o Ngāpui. Me ngā wanaunga o Tūhoi. Tēnei te mihi kia koutou katoa te opu taua. E kore pau ngā mihi kia koutou. Tāhua rau atu ngā mai kua tutuki i te rānei. Kātahi. Ka rua, ka waiwa i au i konei, ki te tuko i ngā mai i kātika, i ngā wakaro kātika. Kia rātau mā i taka i te mato o te wenua, rātau i wawai mo te wenua te take. Nō reira, if I may just at this point, just acknowledge the amazing contribution from the amazing Ope Taua who came here to support us here in Waitara today. Thank you so much from the bottom of our hearts. Thank you, thank you. I also want to, just before I answer your question, Julian, sorry.
No, keep going. It's all good.
And because
you're doing my job for me.
Because I do work at Te Korimako, and I've trained by the best, by my Papa Tūruroa and Papa Takawai Murphy as well, and Dr. Ruakere Hon, so I do tend to talk a bit. Sorry in advance. But I'll be as quick as I can. I just want to acknowledge the trailblazers i te tuatahi, those who lit the flame and kept that flame burning. And I'm talking about the freedom fighters before, those who have given me the mandate to be able to reply to your question, Julian. So I'm talking right now about my beautiful Auntie Frida, affectionately known to us as Auntie Frida Tito, Koe Pare Tito of Pariaka Papakainga, Uncle George Tito, and my amazing and beautiful Uncle Te Miringa Hohaia. So I don't want to go speak about myself until I've acknowledged those I need to acknowledge first. And also Dr. Ruakere Hon, Matua Tūruroa Whevel, and Takawai Murphy, who isn't here with us today, but his beautiful daughter is. So I want to acknowledge them because, as well as Koro Te Huirangi, Even though Kuru isn't here, I feel him wherever I go. I feel him everywhere. Mere iwa, rātou katoa, those ones who lit the flame, kui whero mā, rātou katoa, those who lit the flame and ignited it within all of us and gave the mana me ki to Matua Tūriro to run the wānanga here in Taranaki, and to his wife who set up the kura kaupapa Māori. I bring this up because it's so important. We need to acknowledge why I am the way I am and the why I'm going to answer this question. And it's actually their fault. So what they did, just briefly so I can answer this question about how I feel about today, because it was amazing. Rōkiri Hond many years ago in the 1980s came to Tarata, to my marae in Tarata here in Taranaki, to help us. And then he brought the seed of te reo Māori, the seed that he planted in my people, in Ngāti Maru. And that's because of Matua Tūriro as well. And so thank you, Dr. Rōkiri Hond, and I will say it while you're still alive and you're in this room, you can hear me say it. And you too. Thank you, Papa Tūriro. So I'm bringing that up because today I felt so proud to be Māori. I felt so proud to be Māori and from Waitara. I felt proud to be given all this huge responsibility from Auntie Frida and Uncle George and Uncle Te Miringa. And I felt proud to be living the legacy that they've left. And so my sort of, I suppose, kaupapa over here, doing this amazing panel over here, is about growing up with the legacy. So I grew up with the legacy here in Waitara, watching my cousin Ngaina burn the British flag outside here at Owai Marae. That's the legacy that I grew up with. And I grew up watching my Uncle Te Miringa lead by example and march. He was on the front line, but he was a very, very peaceful man. I watched Dr. Rōkiri Hond. Oh man, how many wānanga that he led to instill te reo mea o na tikanga and talk about take whenua with our people back in the 80s when I was just a little kid at his feet eating those crumbs. I actually prefer, I would have loved to be playing out with the kids and all of this sort of stuff, but I understand today, right now here at Owai Marae after that epic event that took place here, because not in my lifetime have I ever seen a whole lot of amazing Māori maurako, wahine, tāne, female, male here on our marae, because we don't use the rako here. There are only a certain family and puna who use the mau here in Taranaki, and they all belong to Uncle Te Miringa. So I will acknowledge that. And they were here as well. When the A'ika's here, you feel proud because you know that them giving the nod to the maurako that came onto our marae here at Owai is all aligned, and it's good tikanga, good practice. So yeah, to answer your question, Julian, I feel even more motivated, and more determined to do something. Action, I like what Dr. Leone said.
So thanks for joining us. Our broadcasting's here.
Oh, okay, I see. Bring it all on in my house. Come on.
You give a broadcaster a platform. No, but I'm being serious. Actually, you would have seen the rain this morning. It reminded me of Huirangi. Remember that kōrero you taught us about how you're doing a hiko around the maunga, and it was raining, and everyone said to Huirangi, "Hey, Huirangi, ko heke te ua mea ha tātou?" And he said, one of those words, he said, those will go out into the rain, and they will feel the love of Tāwhiri Mātea, and others will get wet. And then 5 minutes later, everyone's hikoing in the rain, and Tarawa's, and Huirangi's in his car waving. Okay. Anyway, what are we doing? Oh, that's what we're doing. Not sure where to go now. Oh, here we go. Peter. Peter, look, you've been involved in treaty negotiations. This isn't a good segue, sorry, Peter. But you've been involved in treaty negotiations. Was there ever consideration, particularly as a part of the Te Atiawa settlement you're involved in, was there ever consideration about things like telling the history of Te Atiawa through a national curriculum, telling the history of the Taranaki Wars through national curriculum, even the recognition potentially of what happened in Taranaki, not just for the purposes of a settlement, but for curriculum for tamariki, rangatahi in Taranaki?
I think it was a fleeting moment because we had other problems. We had issues to do with Waitara, with the Peka Peka land, which we weren't able to settle during our treaty settlements. And that led to a lot of angst amongst our people. And I think to some extent that angst is still felt today. So while that's a wonderful thing to strive for, we had other issues that were far more important at that point in time.
Well, why is that angst still felt today? Tell me why.
Because we weren't able to get the land of Peka Peka back to our people at no cost. We had a letter from our council saying they will advocate to the Crown to hand back that land over and above the settlement. And when it got time to settle, the council changed its tune and said, no, we will take a quarter of your settlement for the land of Waitara, for the Peka Peka land. 25% of our settlement for land that they got for nothing. They paid nothing for it. You know, we made a counter offer. I said, we will double what you paid for it. Because we knew they paid nothing for it. But they didn't accept that offer. So we made another offer of 16.5 million. But it still wasn't good enough. They wanted valuation, land valuation. And yet we advised them we were getting redress. We weren't getting compensation. So why should they get land valuation when we weren't getting full compensation? So we had to part ways, but sadly, our people were hurt by that action. And I accept responsibility for that action, even though it was our iwi that voted on it. But we weren't able to satisfy that.
All right, I think you raised a couple of points there, which I do want to pick up on later on. And of course, you'll note that I haven't asked the question of our new panellist, the Race Relations Commissioner, but we will. Following this short VT, let's take a look at what our new Race Relations Commissioner said in an interview not long after he was officially installed as New Zealand's Race Relations Commissioner. Here he is in an interview with Te Ao Māori News, Regan Paranihi, not long after becoming the Race Relations Commissioner.
Ko te pūtake o te riri he wā taumaha, e ai ki te kai kumihana whakawhanaunga a iwi a Ming Foon, me whakamana e te katoa.
He hitori whakaharahara mā tātou. Ko waiku nei whakaaro me whakamanahia me maumaharatia. Tērā ngā mahi o te pakangara.
Hei tā Foon, ko te nuinga o ngā rangi oki tū matanui ki konei, he rā I ara ake I rā wāhi.
That day, and Waitangi Day that are New Zealand. Ko te Kirihimete, ko te Boxing Day, ko te Easter, me te Easter Monday, te rā whānau o te Queenie, o tira pehe mātou. Pehe mātou ngā rā mō mātou anake o Aotearoa hei whakamaumahara.
Engari ko tāna e hara I te mea he kaupapa tēnei e hāngai ana ki a ngai Māori anake.
Kei te pirangi wau ngā whānau whānui o tātou o Aotearoa, hei maumahara me te matatau tātou I ngā hitori nui tēnei te pūtake o te Riri.
Aha kua ka whakanui a tēnei rā, ko tā Foon me whakamana I tētahi rā whakamaumahara motuhake, rā whakatā I te mahi mo te katoa.
Ko te rā rua te kaumā waru o Oke Tōpe te haina tia o te whakarangatira o ngai Māori o Aotearoa, te Declaration of Independence I te tau 1835, koe rā te rā.
You're clapping for yourself there. Okay, so here we are on this live broadcast here at Oi Marae and Te Koroa Māui. So really simple question to start with. When are we going to get that National Day? How are you going to do it? And when will you do it for us?
Kia ora, Julian. Tuatahi no ngā maunga tūwhakahi o te rāwhiti e tuku ane he mihi kau atu ki a Taranaki maunga me ki koutou te wā kāinga e takutu nei tēnei rangi ātāhua te rā maumahara te pūtake o te Riri. Kia tātou kei ko whakaemi nei kei roa I tēnei whare tipuna o tātou. You know, I look back and it wasn't that long ago that you could actually change the gun laws within a month. Just like that. And we've always heard that you can actually do these things of urgency. And they'll sit there right till night time, midnight, and you can't go home. So why is it so difficult? Why is it so difficult? And my question I always ask myself, why does it take so long if you really have the heart to actually do it? you would actually implement it. And so, look, 28th has been instilled, and it might not suit everybody, but that's the wānanga that the iwi had at that time, and you can still acknowledge those days in your takiwā. But, you know, like I said, you know, there's only Waitangi Day that is us, and that's between the Crown and Ngai Māori. And the Putake o te Riri is the same. It's between the Crown and Ngai Māori. And so why is it so difficult to have another day just for Aotearoa? And it's like I said, it's very important that we actually instill this day for everyone. It's not just for Māori, but it's for every New Zealander to actually learn about the history. Now you have a look at Anzac Day. They've actually instilled it as a commemorative day, and you can see there our children. They do projects, they do research, and they actually come up with wonderful stories that they tell of their papa. They turn out at Anzac Day, 6 o'clock in the morning, right? And they are proud to be Kiwi, New Zealanders. And so why can't we actually have a day for us?
Let's raise this point then. Why not, and this is just me playing devil's advocate, I'm not expressing my view here, but why not just have Te Putake o te Riri on the same day as Anzac Day? These are commemorative war events.
No, this is a different day that is, this is actually the second, if not the most important day, but the second most important day to me, because it is our war here in our takahia mana, te karauna I a koutou. This is the only one that is actually in New Zealand. The other battles were fought overseas. You know, they fought overseas, and even the Germans and the Italians will say, well, what are you doing here? You know, what are you doing here at our place fighting this war? So, but this one here is our own history, and we must own our own history, and we must tell our own history, and we must be proud that we do have a history that we can actually share with our tamariki, even though it's warts and all, and that it is time to actually have it as our day, so that we can actually cut this nonsense of kuwaretanga, ignorance, and not understanding why is our Māori in this situation today, because...
You go for it.
I'll just support that. I mean, the thing that our people need to get to understand is that, as pretty much all of us have been talking about, this is political. You can tip over legislation in 48 hours if you wanted to. And so why would you not? Politics is about winning the country over. If you cannot win the country over and take them with you, you'll be out. Therefore, it's about back to that big wave I talked about earlier, taking the country with us. I mean, think back to Hene Wehi Moi, national anthem of Aotearoa. That she got berated.
Pilloried. Yeah, pilloried for it.
For singing the national anthem of this country in Māori language. Now, 20 years down the track, that's how long it takes to take the country with us on that small issue. When we're talking about our shared history, which for some genders up some elements of anger, of sadness, of whakamā, of embarrassment about what happened in our history, it will take time, despite the fact that we want it to move faster. But in the end, some of these issues are political, which is why I say we actually don't have to worry about seeking a day. We've made the day. Today was the day. We made it ours, and it's ours now to share with the country.
Hei whakarehu I ngā kōrero a te tukurua nei, a katahuri ki etahi atu o ngā kai kōrero ai nei. I mentioned before that one of my favourite kapahaka is ngā purupura o te tai hawauru, and I meant it. Ngā purupura o te tai hawauru, as a part of their performance, their bracket at Te Matatini o Te Ao in Wellington this year, had a very special whakaeke. Ko te tikanga I o te whakaeke a ngā purupura o te tai hawauru, e mea tia ana kia homai hera kia te tiro ake tātou i te whakaeke a ngā purupura o te tai hawauru I tā akina ake rātou I roto I ngā marama kua pahure ake nei.
Taranaki Iwi,
Mai te rā nā ngā purapura o te tai hauauri, you don't need a rā. You've had a rā today. The Crown doesn't need to give an official rā. You don't need to wait for the Crown to give you a rā. That's the argument that some people will have. He pēhau whakaro ki te rā.
Well, why can't we have lots of rā? You know, I believe that te iwi Māori can be trailblazers. We can be the example for all Indigenous peoples of the world. O mai te rā o Pariaka. So there's o mai e rā, which is give us a day, and then there's o mai te rā. There's a big difference between e, a, and te, the. So I'm saying, well, not me, but this group is saying, o mai te rā o Pariaka, give us the day that acknowledges Pariaka. And I've, you know, sometimes, I mean, for us, Pariaka, and it resonates with all of us, Pariaka is the window to our history. It is the window to our ancient history. It resonates with us as iwi Māori and iwi Pākehā and everybody. Even Pākehā relate to the Pariaka history in some way, shape or form. But I think it's really important that the Pāua is acknowledged, because if you go to all of you who know about Matatini, every group sings about Pariaka. And that's why we're inspired to take our own story from the view of the mōreu of Pariaka. That wasn't something we just wrote, and let's just take this kōrero to Parliament and ask for a day. That was many, many wānanga and a lot of, you know, internal conflict with ourselves in terms of who we are, our identity, and all of those sorts of things. We actually researched the Ploughman's List to understand that each and every one of us on that stage are the true mōreu, the survivors of the Ploughman's List, those of our tūpuna who were taken to the South Island. Mm-hmm. So when we say, o mai te rā o Pariaka, we really mean it. It's not just about kapaaka and a performance and, you know, and dressing up and saying these words and all of this. Mm. We truly mean it when we talk about Pariaka. When we talk about the legacy of our tupuna, and those of you who understand about Pariaka and about our history, you'll feel it too. You'll definitely feel it. And so, you know, we're living with this. The pain is not going away. I acknowledge Te Pire Haiata, and it just happened just recently, this week. Wonderful. Wonderful that it has been acknowledged in Parliament. But that does not take away that what we feel. Everyone needs to know about Pariaka. I also, at this point, want to acknowledge the Pakakoi, because the Pakakoi in the south they were taken as well. Before our Ano and Pariaka, before our tupuna in Pariaka, so I'll acknowledge both. And in terms of the Pariaka history and the Pāua, I think we've asked for our day, so kia tere, I've just been told by our Minister, 48 hours is all it takes. I had hoped that Jacinda came today, Prime Minister to Premier came today with a reply and to offer us our day. I actually had hoped that that's what she was going to do. I hope she came with 2 ears that listen and hear and feel, a heart that feels, and her pen, because that pen has got so much mana. That pen is changing the landscape, the environment of Aotearoa as we know it. And she can very quickly sign us up a day.
Tēnā koe, tēnā koe. Tēnā koe I tērā kōrero. As you know, Jamie, and it's been mentioned, this is politics. Politics is pragmatism, right? That's what people say. Politics is pragmatism. Why not just use the force and the will of the indestructible, indefatigable will of the people of these communities to further this journey, to advance this kaupapa without the formal recognition of such a kaupapa coming from government? Because this is what's happening now.
As I reflect back, I mean, we talk about Wiramu Kingi and about Pupuru Whenua. It was really about rangatiratanga. So I agree, you know, we can hold this rā and it can be an expression of our rangatiratanga. But I think if we're truly wanting to achieve the ultimate outcome, which is where all New Zealanders acknowledge and embrace our history, for me, the practical element of government support by setting aside a formal day is a step that enables us to achieve that greater acknowledgement of the importance of the day, that history and all of that kōrero. Because we don't need legislation, because we can come together on the 28th of October every year if we commit to doing that. And for me, I think a challenge for us here in Taranaki is that, you know, we have a number of rā already. And so a rā like this is important for us to remember. But for me, about us coming together. And I think, you know, quite apart from the government, non-Māori, we have our own challenges to ensure that we can unite as a people. Because we're quick to chop down others, but me titiro anō tātou ki a tātou anō.
Tēnā koe. E te iwi i tēnei rā, i tēnei tau, ko te pūtake o te raukura. I tērā tau i whakaharetia tēnei kaupapa i roto i te whare ōpuhi. I reira mana e piha e kohi e whakaimi haere ana i ngā kōrero o te wā. I whai wāhi atu ia, ki tahi tai kau atu ki tērā kaupapa te pūtake o te riri, whakaputunga tuatai.
Tēnei me te pūtake o te riri. Kai reira e whakai ana ki te ahu o tēnā kōrero. Engari, ko te pūtake o te riri, e hara I a tātou te pūtake o te riri, ko te Pākehā kē te.
History, my aspirations would be that it is seen as a birthright for all of people who are not only descendants of Ngā Iwi, Ngā Hapu, but people who live and dwell in this country. It becomes their birthright as well.
Nō reira, ko te mana te mea tuatahi, ko ia te timatanga te whakamutunga o ngā mea katoa. A mutu I ngā riri whenua I tērā wā, e hara I te mea he whawhai ki Wainganui I te krauna me te Māori. E whawhai ana a te tuakana ki te teina.
We really need to see the emergence of Māori historians so that You know, we've got the nuances of our storytelling. I mean, Dr. Rangi Walker was just an incredible storyteller, but at the same time gave legitimacy to the way in which she told our history.
Warua te Pākehā e pare ana i nei kōrero ki Rahaki. Me te kore whai whakaaro nui, me te kore aro nui mai ki ngā kōrero a te Māori. He tāmitanga i runga no i te hiahia te Pākehā, kia mautonu i aia, kia puritia tonu tia te mana o tēnei whenua ki ana ringaringa. He māma, no tātou te whenua, no reira kia maumaharata, kia tūpato tātou. I te mea ki te tuku i tēnei kōrero hei kaupapa ako. Ki reira riro atu ai, riro anō ai i te Pākehā, te mana o e rā kōrero.
Titiro ki te maunga titohia, ronga o parihaka Waitotaroa, Ngāti Moeahu Ngāti Haupoto, ko te kākiritanga o te Queenie o Wikitori a kaitoa. Ko tohu ko tuiti ngā manu e rua i patu te hoariri ki te rangi Mārie, kisaue, aha koi te pāhuatanga o parihaka, ue ha.
It was a good point Jamie made before that VT, and I think it's been reinforced in that VT itself. A point about rangatiratanga. Te Ururoa doesn't rangatiratanga, or one of the forms or expressions of rangatiratanga, come from our ability to tell our story, our history, which is what that opportunity of the new curriculum presents in 2022?
We hope so.
But have you got some concerns or apprehension around that?
Well, I mean, as others have said, it's a long game. All of the stuff we put in place over time will find some benefit at some time. I think the issue for our people is too slow, not fast enough. Let's move it. We've been here for 160 years. What's the problem? So we're heading in the right direction, just as we did with the national anthem and over time settlements, despite the issues that are involved with them. But it will take time, and the downside is that our people are anxious. We want to move things faster and ask simple questions about issues like, why does it take so long when in the short term you can turn law over like that? And worse is that at the heart of that is also the pain that people still suffer when they think about what has actually happened to our people. When the people of Taranaki talk about their people from Parihaka being taken to Dunedin, locked away under no charge, you'll understand why they're pretty angry. When you go to the people of Maunga Pohatu and they say, hold on, how come Ruakenana was taken away from us under no charge, locked up, and then brought back to the people, and people were killed? Why is that? That history has been suppressed. Well, naturally people don't want to talk about it because it's airing a little bit of things that people don't want to talk about too much. So it's going to take time, and that's the downside. That's the difficulty that we have to come to grips with, because it's also dealing with the things that Lani talked about, reconciliation between kāwanatanga and rangatiratanga, and how actually people make that happen. That's a difficulty at the moment.
Ming, you've been touring around the country. You're into Waiponamu actually with us, I think it was last week or a week and a half ago. So what have people been saying to you? What have you heard from people? Are they saying the same things as Te Ururoa has just mentioned? Too slow, not fast enough, need more quicker?
Well, they're excited that, the history of New Zealand is going to be taught in schools. But they do say, why do we have to wait till 2022? I mean, you've got all your channels and mediums, and you don't have to set typesets anymore. You've already got the stories there, and it's actually articulated into year 1 to 13. And so why is it so difficult? The people on the ground, they just love to actually hear stories. I mean, I know about the Crimean War and the Tsar of Russia and Shakespeare, like they said before, and King Arthur, and I've absorbed all those stories. I absorbed all the Humpty Dumpty's out on the wall and the three little bears and the billy goat gruff. I absorbed all those. But I think it's the adults that are actually stopping our children from learning, and even the languages. I mean, I absorbed 3 or 4 dialects of Chinese at my time.
Well, that was going to be my point. You're also absorbed Te Reo Māori. Yeah. You absorbed Ngāti Porou. You absorbed Papi Mahuika too, which isn't an easy thing to do. But you absorbed a lot into Tai Rāwhiti. So how come you, he uri no te iwi manene, I tā mai ki tēnei whenua I Tarawāhi rāno, how come someone like yourself can absorb that process, that education, that mātauranga without a curriculum change, and yet so many have been so slow to be on the same waka?
Well, I've got a special gene that I like to learn languages and history. But, you know, our children have the ability and capability of learning. They, in many countries in Europe, they German, French, English, Spanish. You know, not a problem. Here, we're still a mono language, and it's really unfortunate because I think if we were able to have our children learn many languages and learn the history, look, even if you don't learn history, but if you learn the New Zealand history itself, you will get names of Māoridom in your vocabulary, and you will actually understand the whakapapa of those histories, which is very important. You know, rua peka peka, wairanga heka, ngā mea I te nota, you know, rangiriri, katoa, you know, even everything has a whakapapa to it, and it just runs so beautifully. And if our children are given the opportunity to create the conditions in the kura, in the workplace, at home, for our people to learn, and without inhibiting them or without punishing them or without putting any caps on their learning ability, just create the conditions. And, you know, and you say, well, you know, listen to our children. Our children from Otorahanga School started this. Listen to the children reclaiming climate change. Listen to the young adults in apartheid. Listen to the young women who wanted a vote. Listen to our tamariki mokopuna. They know what the future is, and it's our, you know, from our processes of kāwanatanga or council, sometimes we just got blockheads. It's just too hard. Anything that do with kaupapa Māori is actually quite difficult. Yeah. It's very difficult when it comes to the political system.
Peter, has that been your experience as well, particularly given the processes that you've gone through in treaty settlements and particularly trying to negotiate with the Crown?
Oh, negotiating with the Crown wasn't too bad because, well, they got rules, they got processes, they got budget. The difficult part was with our own people who had very high aspirations. No budget, often no rules. But that was what we were put into during that process. But Rāwiri touched on a point earlier about the mana of the Crown, and what I have found of late that is lacking in the Crown. Even though the settlement that we negotiated, that was signed, that was approved by all elements of government, even that settlement now is under threat. And the ministers are doing nothing about it.
Okay, so Leonie, this is the point that I think, coming back to the rangatiratanga point that Jamie mentioned, because this is not a rangatiratanga process, right? Our ability to be able to tell our stories through our rangatiratanga, that is a rangatiratanga process. Are you confident that that can be reinforced when we change our curriculum, when we reintroduce Māori history particularly into the New Zealand curriculum in 2022, or do you also have some apprehension?
Well, you know, rangatiratanga can only be asserted by us. The Crown can only assert kāwanatanga. So when we're talking about mana motuhake, rangatiratanga, we assert that. And so I agree with the kōrero that we can have these days at any point if we assert our rangatiratanga. And when we talk about parihaka and we talk about the pāhua, November 5th, most people in this country celebrate Guy Fawkes. They celebrate some dude in Britain who failed to blow up the colonial government. Some of us actually celebrate the fact he tried. Much more useful for Māori. So we already know that actually, for the pāua, we do that anyway. Parihaka does that anyway. But this nation does need to know. And so it's relatively straightforward to remove Guy Fawkes and replace it. Because Guy Fawkes has no relationship to Aotearoa at all. So to the Lord's point, that it takes a long time. There is a long game, but it also takes a short time, like he's telling us. It can take a long time or it can take 48 hours, depending on the will of the government, depending on the will of the kāwanatanga of the time. The treaty settlement process is not a rangatiratanga process, it's a kāwanatanga process. That's what both Jamie and Peter and Tudu, they've all been saying the same thing. So we're engaged in a process which is fundamentally abusive, because we're talking about power relationships with a crown that determine all the rules, that determine everything. You know, they steal the land and they determine whether or not they give it back. So we're in that whole situation again of an imbalance of power that continues, and the same with acknowledgement of, you know, what has happened in terms of Waitara and in Aotearoa generally. I think one thing we need to remember when we talk about things like intergenerational trauma and colonial trauma is that we have a right to our history, we have a right to our backstory, because it's more than just a history of talking about the stories. Inherent in that is a process of healing. And that's something that Ruakere talked a lot about today.
That's right. I'm going to pick up on that point after the break if I can. E te iwi ke utunu mai, ke aita tunu mai ki tēnei pāpā hotanga. We'll be back with more after the break. Before we throw to the break though, thank you both to the Race Relations Commissioner, Ming Foon, and also to Roro Whewha. Tēnā kōrua. I whai wahi mai kōrua, ki tō mātou taumata. Tai hoa ke e te iwi, taro kawa ke nei, ko hoki mai anō.
So I'm sending you these vibes, all these vibes, all these vibes, all these vibes. That's us! I wanna be your one and only, so I'm sending you these vibes, all these vibes, all these vibes, all these vibes.
Hey, keep calm.
So I'm gonna run now.
Pity's on. Push up. And training has hit the next level.
Scrum time. Jeez, aggressive. Okay, then come on.
The World Cup hero lives on.
Useless.
I whakaata mau.
E tino aro atu ana a te ao, ki te ao tihi, ki te ao mati. Mai te ono karaka I te ata, tainua ki te ono karaka I te pō. E tuku I ngā kōrero, I ngā ripuata, ki te ao tihi, ki ngā pai, papori, katoa.
That us?
Yeah, that's us.
Wā ke tātou.
That's us!
I wanna be your one and only, so I'm sending you these vibes, all these vibes, all these vibes, all these
Your invention has won our prestigious Spirit Award.
Wow, I'll be back.
Have a look at this.
We are so lucky to have a boy like you. T.S., you haven't been kidnapped.
And if you're okay, that's all that counts.
The young and prodigious T.S. Spivet, Ramere.
New Zealand is surely wasted on the Maoris. This land was bought for a fair price.
Undertow. Rāpare.
Tērā no pia ko taurau, ko te uti pia ngā manu e rua e kaha kōrero ti ana I tēnei wā. I runga I te mea, he mea hou pia ki te motu tēnei hitori. Ka kapu atu I a pariaka pēnei e rama e kapo mai ana I te pō a koia a Taranaki me ngā pakanga. Engari he wāhanga iti no ana I tērā. I roto o I te katoa o te tiro a ngā tuki ngā pakanga. Arāno o te rangitake, arāno a hapurona, arāno a matakātea, arāno a tītoko waru, arāno a tito te reihana taua, rārangi mai nei, ngā tupua, ngā tawhito o te rāwa. I tū ki te aroaro te pū, kāri mataku, engari anō kōkiri tonu I te mea mōhiona, he oranga tō rātou e pai nei. Nō reira, mo te motu e aro mai ana ki ngā pakanga o Taranaki, tiro ia te katoa o ngā pakanga. rua te kau mātai tau o te pakanga I roto o Taranaki. Mai te ono te kau, tai atu ki te waru te kau mātai. Nō reira, rua te kau mātai tau, pakanga a Taranaki ki te karauna. I think for us within Taranaki, we recognise Te Rangitake not at all in the area of warfare and conflict. His father was definitely that. He was the strong hand of Te Aotearoa through that period. But the characteristics, the skills, the background of Te Rangitake was one of economic development, of peace, and he always sought a way forward that was peaceful. As far as I know, I've never seen any evidence to say that he ever advocated for any conflict within Taranaki. He was the one that the people turned to when they came back to Taranaki to lead the revival, lead the redevelopment of the base that would ensure that Te Atiawa Nui Tonu would be able to survive on these lands.
Tēnā anō koutou katoa, nau mai hoki mai e ngai iwi, and we welcome back Rawiri David Orba and of course Andrew Judd. Tēnā rā kōrua. Wiremu Kingi Tarangitake, what an extraordinary figure. 21 years Taranaki fought the Crown. Tell me more, because I wonder how you do that. How you keep that together for so long in such adverse conditions through the leadership of the likes of people like Wiremu Kingi Tarangitake. How does that happen?
He rangatira, he manawa nui, he kimi I tēnei mea te ora. So he exemplifies those characteristics that I think we all require from time to time. But Wiremu Kingi, for me, he was extraordinary. He demonstrated leadership, he was articulate. If you ever have the opportunity to read his letters to the government, he was able to mobilise his people, he was principled, he had integrity, and he understood the value of land as a source of identity, as a foundation of well-being for his people.
Okay, I don't want you to limit my ability to go away and read the letters, and I will, because I think though I would be fascinated by.
Oh well, the statements, right? I mean, the interaction with the government. You know, he was powerful in a sense that he was able to play the government at their own game.
Talk to me about that further.
Well, I just think the government were threatened by an individual who was able to mobilise people to undermine the government's attempt to settle Waitara on their terms. And it's quite simple. I mean, you know, the proverb that is commonly used in this region about him referring to the bird perched on the rock, when the tide rises, that rock disappears and the bird has nowhere to perch. I mean, unfortunately, that came to pass. And I think, you know, it's part of what what Rawiri and the team in Te Atiawa are still coming to grips with. And I think that's been acknowledged. And, you know, Te Whiti and Tohu always said, until Waitara is resolved, and koe rā te pātai, koe ea Waitara.
Koe rā te pātai, koe ea Waitara?
Well, I just felt like I've come back from the sin bin, so... Kare anō ke, kare anō.
Mā hea e ai, me peha lai nei tōna whakaiatanga.
Oh, well, you know, it's going to take a lot of honesty from the Crown. We've had no justice for the wrongs that were committed here and for the ongoing wrongs that continue to be committed here. There is no justice. There is no forum for us to have that justice. There's a tribunal that hears our concerns and an Office of Treaty Settlements which will pay them off, but there's no justice. So can there really be peace without justice? Can there be justice without truth? And can you have truth with a partner who won't sit in the same room with you long enough to have the discussion? So no, Waitara has not been resolved. And as for how do you do it, how can you do it by yourself? You know, we have to follow the teachings of Te Whiti and Tohu. And I don't know if it might not be appropriate for TV, but in our hapu, we remind ourselves that the whiti and tohu bent over backwards to accommodate all the people. They never bent over once, and never bent over forward once to accommodate the crown. They didn't. Simple as that. So until the crown is mature enough to come and have a conversation and stay long enough for there to be a resolution, then nothing is resolved.
Andrew, lots of nodding of head there.
Oh, look, from my experience and observation, and as I mentioned, coming into it as a lay person of no knowledge of our past, as a representative of our district, what hit me in the heart was the lack of sincerity and honesty from our crown, around settling anything. And I've instantly felt, and say to this day, that treaty settlements haven't even begun. Because if you are not honest with what you're trying to settle, you've settled nothing. And I observed a lack of honesty, trying to escape the truth. And we talk about the children learning the history coming forward. Well, today's generation that made those calls, your grandkids are going to ask you, what were you doing? What did you do? Why did you accept that it wasn't actually truthful and honest? Why did you allow yourselves to only settle a few cents in the dollar in compensation? Why did you not truly acknowledge the hurt and the consequences of what my ancestors did? So I hope I'm around to see the beginnings of treaty settlement.
You know, I think it's really important when we talk about commemoration and we talk about history, that the latest confiscation of Waitara happened in December last year with the freeholding of the land through the councils, through the Waitara Lands Block.
Okay.
So we're not talking about even only 160 years ago. We're talking about a process that Peter raised in terms of the treaty negotiations. We're talking about a whole range of steps in between. We're talking about two councils, the district council and the regional council, that are fundamentally greedy in this town and have taken a huge amount of resources out of Waitara. And then we see a bill in December that really moved a whole range of opportunities for both the hapu and for the iwi of Waitara to freehold land, which will then move it a step further away from our ability to hoki whenua mai. So I think that, you know, and the point that Rawiri makes around, you know, when do we have peace? And we have that saying here, you know. Peace is more than just the absence of war. And so Waitara can only be at peace when it is resolved. And that's the point that Jamie makes.
Yeah.
So I think the point, it's really about how do we resource and enable ourselves, because I think there's a lot of understanding that needs to be had among our own people, our iwi, our broader local community. And so, you know, government is one element, but I think what are the opportunities for us to be able to enable a greater understanding among our own people? And I'm a strong believer that ultimately rangatiratanga lies with those collectives who are responsible for their own pathways and well-being. And I mean, you know, for December, for me, that was really a matter for the hapu. And ultimately the hapu, Manukurihi and Otaraua, determined what path they would take. Again, I think it's, as I said earlier, unfortunately, you know, there's always that sort of compromise element. But I think, you know, ultimately, and Wirumukingi is the example of this, and his father was the example of this when they went south. You know, hea te mea nui ko te kimi te ora mo te tangata. And I think we've got to also remind ourselves of that, and we've got to be pragmatic at times to understand if it's truly about our people, and that there are various ways of being able to do that.
Ka haere tuna a tātou kōrero. Let's continue this discussion, but also potentially have this discussion enhanced by further local stories in Taranaki, in particular in Waitara. Ko Hoani Iri wata tēnei, e whakapuaki ake ana i ōna whakaro, i āna kōrero, e pā ana ki te muru raupatu, i pākau iho mai ki tēnei takiwā, i pākau iho mai ki tōna marae, me ngā hua katoa, i puta i te muri raupatu, me ngā mahi pakanga i tū ki Taranaki roto i ngata.
Yes, the name of Muri Raupatu, of this wharenui.
come back to that, but trust me, it's awesome. We'll get there. E kōrero ana hoani mō ngā mahi muru raupatu I pākau I ho mai ki tēnei whenua. The discussion that we were just talking about, the price of compromise. Peter? What is the price of compromise?
Well, I believe in compromise.
Why?
I think a society without compromise leads to conflict. But we are the ones who are always expected to compromise the most. Whatever it is, whether it comes to treaty settlements, whether it comes to teaching the history, whether it comes to, for instance, tonight, where's the other party? We're all sitting here, we all agree with each other. But where's the other party? You know, where's the Crown to be challenged about their actions? So I just think that we're compromising again tonight. Goodbye. I wake up every day and I celebrate every single day because I know that the future is going to be better. It may take a while, but it's going to be better.
Te tuahine, Tamsin, he pēhe o whakaro. Is the price of compromise too high?
I don't like to compromise. My tikanga, my mana wenua, my rangatiratanga, mana Māori motu ake, and I won't compromise it. If Waramu Kingi Te Rangitake has taught us anything, it's to be brave. And so I want to share something whilst I've got the opportunity, thank you, Julian. Something
It's something
that
we're not accustomed to, but go
has
ahead.
some substance, because we are live right now, and if Matua Peter has said he believes the future looks bright. Well, it could be bright with more and further education around our history. I also believe that the Treaty of Waitangi, as well as the New Zealand Land Wars history, needs to go hand in hand. And we use kapa aka as one of the vessels, and I know it's cliched, but we do use it as a vessel to tell our stories. That's the way that we can share the intergenerational information, knowledge, esoteric knowledge, history, tikanga, reo, all of that. And I don't need the government to give me a rā, I don't need legislation to give me a rā to do it. We do it for free. We do it for freedom. We do it for the future generations to come. And I also believe that something that I learned from my papa Rawiri Dōba, and I'll share this with you all, it's very important. 2 years ago, out the back here at Ōwai Whaitara Marae, after Māui Pōmare Day, which we also commemorate here at Ōwai Marae. It's the day that we bring our kauimate home, back to here, to Ōwai. And he said to us after the last pot we dried, it hurt, no, but anyway, he said, Bub, the raukura, don't ever misunderstand the meaning of the raukura. He doesn't know I'm going to do this, by the way. Sorry, Papa, in advance. And I said, oh, okay. And he said, what does it mean to you? And I said, it means glory to God on high, peace on earth and goodwill to mankind. That's what it means. That's what it is. And it means resilience. And it means for us to be strong. And he said, don't ever forget that before Te Iti and To'u were the passive, you know, they had the passive resistance movement, the kaupapa, that they were warriors. Don't ever forget that they were warriors first and foremost. He's not the only one that taught me that. Korohuirangi told me that as well. And so did Paparori Broughton. And they keep on saying it. They feed it, feed it, feed it. And that stuff goes right here with me. And then it comes right out here. And then I share it with anybody who cares. And so he said to me that Okura Pap, yes, it does signify peace and you know, me pupuru ki te maungarongo. Because that's what it is, right? We all know that. It's quite well, does everybody know that? And well, they should know it now. And hopefully you share this, you know, with the share button on Facebook so that more people can learn about what it is. Because the raukura is told to me by my papa Rawiri Dōba here at Ōwai Marae 2 years ago means courage under fire. Does not just mean, okay, you're coming at me with some conflict. You're coming at me with the negotiations of, you're going to give me some pūtea to settle my land grievance. Because I'll just say, Ngāti Maru, my people, we're landless. My people went to Pariaka to help and to live in Pariaka because our people believed in To'u and Te Iti. And I love them for that. I love my ancestors for following the Maungarongo. However, when they left, a lot of them were taken. They were incarcerated, taken to the South Island. when my tupuna, those who stayed alive, because many were killed on that journey to the south, those that returned home back into Maru country, to Tarata and to Purangi, came back and they were landless. To this very day, 2019 te tau, right now here, 28th of October, I am a descendant of those Maru tupuna and I am landless. I have no inua. You take my land, you take my reo, you take my tikanga, you take my identity. And so what we're doing in Ngāti Maru, because we are the last iwi to settle, my father and my cousin Ratapue, who also was a freedom fighter, I'll just put that out there, they actually slammed an injunction on the Ngāti Maru negotiators, and I'm proud of it. They slammed that injunction on them when I was 15 or 16 years old. Yeah. And I watched. I didn't learn from a pen and a paper and a book and at universities, etc., about this process. I learned by watching and observing. And what I saw them do was fight for our whenua. They put a po in the ground and they said, we will not settle. And to this day, I'm still landless, and to this day, I'm proud that Ngāti Maru has not signed full and final just yet. Kia ora.
E whawhaitonu nei koe. Hey, we're meant to finish, but because we have our rangatiratanga, we're going to keep going.
True.
So, ka haere tunu a tātou kōrero i aenei. We've got one more clip. Ko te tikanga ia o tēnei mea o te pūtake o te riri, ko te tikanga ia o tēnei mea o te pūtake o te raukura. Ko mātai whakamuri tātou, ko timata te mātai whakamua. So we're going to talk to our panel about the future following this clip. E whakamāra māna i te tikanga i hoiho o te pūtake o te riri, o te pūtake o te raukura.
Te pūtake o te riri is an important, one is it's an event, but it's also an important marker, a reference point, where we can go and visit each one of these key areas that was subjected to huge violence and oppression. Te pūtake o te riri pulls together a number of elements. So firstly, the decision to locate Putake o te riri on the 28th of October, I think is a powerful statement. For so long, te whakaputanga, te rangatiratanga o New Tireni, the Declaration of Independence, largely ignored. It never ever ignored in Taitokerau, and yet the significance of the 28th of October in the region, such as Taranaki, was always known about, but having something like this, where it can be recognised in a way of understanding that the wars weren't simply wars because Taranaki was attacked or Waikato was attacked and that violence escalated. It was all about rangatiratanga. And where is that rangatiratanga based? We trace it back to te whakaputanga rangatiratanga nei I New Tireni, to 1835. And if you think about it, we're only talking about a short 25 years since the signing of the Declaration of Independence and the beginning of these wars, the land wars here in Taranaki and Waitara. That's one generation, from a point of recognition of rangatiratanga to the wars where the settler government that was established in 1854 then moved to extinguish that rangatiratanga. That is what the wars were about, was Māori standing up to retain the rangatiratanga that was guaranteed under the Declaration of Independence, that was recognised in the Treaty of Waitangi, that then was sought to be extinguished with the use of war, through the loss of land, through confiscation of land, and the domination of Māori by Pākehā settlers. Pūtake o te riri really only recognises one part, and that is the riri. And it's easy to look at history as a body count, as from one battle to the next battle to the next battle. Who won this battle? Why did we win it? Yet it's really easy to not recognise those who use peace. And I totally believe that in every iwi around the country, they had their advocates who were saying violence is not a way forward. Violence begets violence. Anger and hatred begets anger and hatred. That we need to find a way to be able to provide peace to our future generations. And every iwi had those leaders. We look at Tāwhiao, who, a leader of peace. If we look at so many people who put their effort into parliament, who put their effort into health, put their effort into economic development for one reason, and that is to build a foundation of peace so that we can live in a equitable, in a robust and in well-being in this country. So I think we will find the other half of Putake o te Riri when we find te Putake o te Maungarongo. Putake o te Maungarongo should naturally follow on from Putake o te Riri. Recognising the violence, the hatred and the warfare is one thing, but also recognising those aspirations for this country to live in peace. It's not about booting everyone out and saying we are now the bosses and yous aren't. It is about saying how do we actually knit an appropriate culture, identity that then recognises the people who are part of this country, and that includes Māori. Te pūtake o te Maungarongo will be found in the future in our rangatei.
Some wonderful words in that kōrero from Ruakere about rangatiratanga and recognising, yes, war and violence, but also recognising the aspirations, particularly for rangatei and for our tamariki. So, to move this conversation forward, Professor, when you cast your eyes forward and you recognise the aspirations for the future, what are they?
Well, I have 5 mokopunas. And so, my aspiration for them, of Te Atiawa and of Waikato, is to not have to go through what our generation have gone through. So when we think about what Ruakere just shared in terms of Maungarongo, that for me is the aspiration. But that comes with rangatiratanga and that comes with mana motuhake. Those things don't come with compromise. So, I'm quite clear about my own position in terms of those visions and aspirations for the future. And the work we do around colonial trauma and the impact of intergenerational trauma is that in order to heal, we need to have the things of our tupuna and we need to be able to stand in those and walk with those. So the reo is a healer. Tikanga is healing. Manakitanga, tiakitanga, all those things, all those taonga tukuiho are healing for this generation and for future generations, but also healing for our tupuna, because we've never really healed our tupuna either, and the pain that they carried through into this generation. So for me, that's the aspiration for the future, is to have an ability to stand as Māori, to live as Māori, which Mason Jury would say, and to do that within our own rangatiratanga. And then we will move into notions of Maungarongo, and I think then we'll have the kind of aspirations that Ruakere shared.
Tēnā koe. Peter Moehu?
I'm reminded 29 years ago I stood in this whare, this house, and on the stage was the Waitangi Tribunal, who heard the tears of Taranaki. And I have seen the progress since then. No matter how slow, there has been significant progress. I expect the next 30 years will even be better. I have great optimism for our future, not only for our people, but for the nation at large. There are still hurdles to jump over, but we as a people will jump over them, and we will lead the rest to the promised land. Kia ora.
Tēnā koe. Tēnā koe kara. Jamie?
Well, ultimately, Julian, for me, is the ability for our people to have choice and to live the lives that they aspire to live in a Māori way. But I understand that, part of that is, again, returning to having a collective understanding of our history, of our experience. And we don't need the crown for that, but we need to provide opportunities by which our people can connect, reconnect with their identity, whether it be Ngāti Tama, Ngāti Mutunga, Te Atiawa, Taranaki Iwi, Ngā Rua Ine, Ngāti Rua Nui, Ngā Rauru. And I think for me it's about how do we once again strengthen our collective identity as iwi and collectivise again. But I'm a bit like Peter, I'm very optimistic. I said to Peter earlier that I watched that video from the tribunal about a week and a half ago. And on that video, we had a full room. Most of those people are no longer with us. No longer with us. And a poi was performed that night by about 15, 20 wahine. And today, when I saw the numbers of our wahine performing poi on our marae atea in our house today, that gave me a sense of confidence and pride for the future. And so I think it's a clear demonstration of how far we have come, Peter, in 29 years. And I think, and I'm hopeful, that we'll have even more rapid growth and development moving forward.
Rawiri Dorba, Chair of All Trustees.
Well, I think that the Crown's passive-aggressive relationship towards us isn't constructive, and I think that we will do well within the confines that they keep us in, and that until we figure out that, well, open up our maraes and let the people come home and grow ourselves from the inside, that we're going to stay in those confines. And it's not something that, okay, I'm in these confines, I'll get out. No, it's the whole system, the racist system that we're in, that actually doesn't allow us to move. It allows us to move only so far, and then it tightens up. So the future holds for us more work. But the good thing about more work for us is that it's more whanaungatanga, more kotahitanga, and that's what we need to develop. But I don't know, I'm not very good on crystal balls.
Atia tērā pai, pai o whakaaro. Andrew?
Well, obviously, Dr. Ruaki laid out the aspiration for us all, and it's something that I sensed going through my journey of realising my ignorance and my racism towards all things Māori, to now say, for us to get to those aspirations and to the aspirations laid out into Te Reo Waitangi is true mutual respect of partnership, is for Pākehā to challenge Pākehā. We are the problem and we're also the solution within ourselves. We have to step up to the plate and actually be a partner for us to fulfil those dreams and aspirations. And if we can truly get there, imagine what kind of powerful country we will be to lead the world.
Before we hand over to Tamsin, who will close our corridor tonight, and look, I'll be honest, I do this with much trepidation. No, I don't. I don't. Hey, you've been awesome, girl, too much. I want to thank all of our panellists who have been here tonight. I want to thank all of you who have come here tonight. Ngā iwi o tēnei marae, ngā uri o tēnei marae, me te iwi Pākehā kua tatu mai. Tēnā koutou katoa kua tatu mai tēnei pō. And thank you for having me here tonight. As a descendant of Kararaina Puketapu, who went to the north, married a Mr. Woods, had a rihi I Hapera Woods, married Penekahi, and from there my matua Pat Hohepa and I descend. So thank you for allowing me to be here. Te Atiawa, tēnā koutou katoa. And finally, thank you for having Māori Television here with you tonight in this beautiful marae on a very significant day. Ngā mihi nui kia koutou katoa. Okay, Gil, you're away.
Oh, well. Taking over the show. Thank you, Julian. Tēnā rau atu koe. He o tano, he mihi tēnei kia koutou katoa, kua hono mai nei ki tēnei pāpāhotanga mataora nei. Before I go, I would like to, as I'm listening to the wonderful speakers and the aspirations that they share, what resonates with me is that they actually lead by example. In their communities, they're actually not just saying something, they're actually leading by example. So my aspiration is that we continue to lead by example, those of us who have taken the responsibility to share the knowledge and the esoteric knowledge, the history, the kōrero, and in context. And if I do say so, if I might also add, just for some context as well, because I realise that I may influence some people in what I say. Now, Papa Kuroruka brought him. He actually said there can be many versions of history. There can be many narratives, many versions of history. But the version of history that will resonate with you is the one, you'll feel it, you'll know. So what I'm going to say is that take what you will from this live feed and from this wonderful discussion that's been had tonight, and Yeah, I agree with Papa Rawiri. We need to start from the inside out. So let's start at home. Let's start with our children. Let's start with our nieces and nephews and those who we do have influence over immediately. I don't want to wait around for Crown, he rā, anything like, what a wānanga, someone to tell me this is happening, this kaupapa. I like to, when I say something, I do like to lead by example. And so I filter the kōrero that I'm so lucky to receive from Dr. Ruakere and others of my kaiako with my kapaaka, and then hoping that they'll share it on to their children. So, let's start at home with our own, and anyone we can influence. Could be your partner, could be Andrew Judd when he comes to the korimako, whoever. When I go to any hui, if I can have some influence over at council on these committees, majority Pākehā, majority old men, sorry, no offence. They're lovely, they love good banter, very highly educated men, and I respect them. And they know that. And the funny thing is it's reciprocal. They find me quite refreshing. This really kind of seemingly shy for the first 10 minutes of the ui. Māori girl from Waitara. And it's quite cool. So you actually can sort of not trap them, that would be highly inappropriate, but influence them in a way that resonates with them also. Because to be honest, they love to hear our truth. They might not tell you that, they might try to retaliate, don't let them resist. Hold them there and give them love, because that's what Tō Atu Iti's legacy is. Feed them with love and maungarongo, and they love it, and give them a little smile, and actually have the conversation, have the kōrero. We grew up here in Waitara, and as a Māori girl growing up in Waitara, the only probably kid who spoke reo, 10 and under, 7, 8, 9, 10, because why? I was shipped off to Wānanga with Dr. Ruakere Holmes and Poike Riro Rako Pakumio to go to all these te Taranaki Iwi. I did not want to go, but obviously they prepared me for this night with Julian. This night. I'm not quite finished. Hang on. Hold your applause for one more moment, please. I will captivate you and I'll hold you there. Here.
Just one or several?
With my raukura that I'm wearing on the inside tonight because it got wet in the rain. Tears of my ancestors fell on my raukura, but I carry it in here. But seriously, let's start the influencing in our own homes, and then let it resonate out with anyone who cares. Because the quicker we can get on with that, the faster the whole of Aotearoa can sign up and go to Te Pūmama Wānanga with Matua Takawaimeti.
Got to plug in, eh? Too much.
Totally, because you all need it.
Okay.
Here we are, no. Julian, I thought you wrapped up. May I please just, if I may, just call out to, huri noi tō tātou wari. This beautiful house gifted to us from our wānau of the East Coast, Tā Apirana. Let me acknowledge those who came from the East as well to our day. Thank you. Thank you so much. Can I please call out to, I'm just looking for Nganiko. Oh, there she is. I'll call out to Nganiko. Nganiko is going to lead us in our waiata. Tō tātou waiata o Taranaki nei, nā Kororuka Broughton. Tēnei waiata waka ei he pikinga paupau.
Tēnā wai.
Kia ra mai tātou.
Kia ra mai ki muri. All right.